Hey, kia ora, Helen Brahms here, coming to you live from Ehrenberg in Arizona, just inside the Arizona state line. It is just across the river. This is the very first campground that I stayed at inside Arizona back at the beginning of October. So it's been 4 weeks, 5 weeks since I was here. On our way back to California. So in a couple of days, let's see, today's Saturday. So Tuesday, we're crossing back into California and gotta find somewhere to stay first. Haven't even worked that one out. Where am I going? Who knows? But today was a good trip. I left. Where was I coming from? I left Mesa just after 10 o'clock. So I returned the rental car, came back, packed, disconnected everything, and hit the road. So it was just after 10. And then around 11:30, I pulled over in one place because I needed to find out where a certain gas station was. And they had a Cracker Barrel, and I thought, I haven't had Cracker Barrel in a long time. So I had steak and eggs for lunch. Oh, yes. And there was also a Walmart there, so I went to the Walmart and did some shopping. And because I'm going to be redecorating the RV at some point, and redecoration kind of has to start like kind of sort of now, because the blind that sits behind my recliner broke. So you've got these double blinds here. This has got the night one down, and you lift it up and there's the lighter day one underneath. Well, the other one doesn't go up at all. The strings on each side of it broke. Probably because of the pressure from the recliner, because it bangs up against it. So I thought, what can I put in its place? So wandering around Walmart, getting what I needed to get, and I suddenly had inspiration. So I figured somewhere up in here, there's a couple of screws that need to be undone to take the blind down. One tension rod, one drape. I don't know if you can see it, but it's actually like a burgundy color. So it's going to add a pop of color in here, because at the moment we've got blend on blend on blend. This is actually 63 inches in length. I don't need it that long, but this is also blackout, reduces noise, saves energy, and blocks the light, which is kind of what I need over there. So tension rod, one of these, and I'll probably have to, I'm definitely going to have to cut it down to size and everything else. But then I thought with the extra material at the bottom, I can then make a sash to tie it up when I'm driving, so it holds it open. And so I got some rings and a hook to put up over there as well. So that's my project over the next couple of days. I also got some baskets that are about 15 inches by 10 inches by 4.5 inches. And that's to go in the overhead cupboards up here, because these overhead cupboards, when I open them after I've been driving, they kind of go. So we're going to stop that. And so the next couple of days is going to be some reorganization going on in here. So decorating by putting up my new curtain, organizing my overhead cabinets, and I don't know what else I'm going to get up to. Probably some writing, because I'm basically stuck here. There's nothing really within walking distance, just a lot of RV parks around here. There's the big travel centers about a mile up the road if I want to go up there, but I did my shopping at the Walmart, so I don't need to worry about that. Got all my food for the next couple of days, or actually a little longer than that. Got supplies. Tomorrow I'm also going to be doing some cooking, pulling out the Instapot. I've got some chicken and some bacon, so I'm going to do some chicken wrapped in bacon, and I might put some cheese in the middle of it and stick it in the Instapot and see what happens. Also going to have some eggs for snacks. So it's going to be a very industrious couple of days, even though tomorrow is my R&R day. So while R&R is happening, stuff can be cooking in the Instapot, and then I just need to get up when it's done, take it out, switch it over, put the next lot in, and go back to doing whatever I was doing. So I'm going to be leaving here on Tuesday. I'm probably going to head straight down to Temecula. There's a campground down there, because the one that I normally stay at in Menifee is booked out. All these snowbirds, I don't know. But the KOA in Temecula still has vacancy, so I'm probably going to go there until the 21st when I head down to where am I going? Escondido. have no idea where I'm going. I love it. I haven't, beyond the 3 nights that I've got here, I have no idea where I'm going after, except somewhere in California. So that was the travel today. So I finally got here around 4:30ish and got all set up and everything else. Gorgeous sunsets tonight. So if you want to see what the sunsets look like, go and have a look on my page. I posted the pictures there. One of them's a panorama view. It was almost like 270 degrees, actually. Just over 180. Because I started it over here because the west is over here, and I started it there and I went around, so I got sparkles in there and the full moon that was coming up behind. It was gorgeous sky, and the panorama came out amazing. I'm actually quite proud of myself. I'm not much of a photographer, but every now and again, I just capture the moment without even realizing it. So wish I could do that more of. I also, after I got here, I was exhausted. Oh my gosh, because I'd been basically traveling for like 6.5 hours with a couple of hours off for lunch. Did get gas further down the road. Got Sparkle's belly full. So that'll see me through all the way through to Temecula and stuff, and down to Escondido. Not looking forward to paying California prices for gas. I mean, I paid $3 today for a gallon, and I know California's somewhere near 5 or something. Yeah, it's going to be a sticker shock when I cross the thing, because there's like a gas station 2 miles, I think it is, from the state line inside California. So yeah, I'm glad the tank's full. But it was a really good drive. Couple of rough patches, but it wasn't too bad. So when I got here, like last night, continuing on my James Bond fest. So last night I watched Diamonds Are Forever, which saw Sean Connery come back after George Lazenby did On Her Majesty's Secret Service. So Diamonds Are Forever was released in 1971. It was released in December 17th of 1971. They started shooting. Actually, a lot of stuff happened in 1971. It was actually very interesting to see how, because it was sort of like, okay, well, they had Sean Connery do the first 5. Then they had George Lazenby come in to do number 6. How did they get Sean Connery to come back to do the 7th James Bond movie with Diamonds before Roger Moore took over in Live and Let Die? And I was like, this is going to be interesting to see how all of this worked. So they actually went searching for a James Bond, and they decided to, they got Guy Hamilton back, who did Goldfinger, because they wanted to kind of bring back that type of feel to the James Bond movie again. And they started doing this in 1970. They wanted to go more American. So they moved and Adam West, who played Batman on the TV series, was actually in England at the time, and they actually interviewed him, auditioned him to become the next James Bond, but of course he was tied up with the Batman TV series. Sorry, the brain's a little fried right now. You can always tell travel days. So they ended up signing up a guy called John Gavin, and John Gavin was actually in the movie Psycho. He played Sam. So if you want to go see who John Gavin was, he passed away, I think it was 2018. They actually had him signed up to play James Bond, and they started setting up in Hollywood and Universal Studios and all of that sort of thing. Then on February 9th, 1971, the San Fernando earthquake occurred. And then United Artists turned around and said, we want Sean back. They said, well, it's going to cost you a couple of $1 million to get him back. And you remember, we're talking 1971. That's a lot of dough. And so what they ended up doing is they ended up paying him $1.2 million. This is back in 1971, was his salary. And he took his entire salary and launched his trust, which gives out scholarships to kids in Scotland, but they have to be educated in Scotland and be using their degrees in Scotland or something like that, which I thought was really good. So he didn't actually take a salary. He just donated it all to his trust, into his foundation thing. And they also tied in there a 2-picture deal, not a James Bond, but 2 other pictures. And they ended up doing a movie called The Offense, but didn't do a second movie. And they just said, and they kind of like brushed that under the carpet. So I don't know what happened. They didn't go into any details and all of that. But the movie was really good. I enjoyed it. It's one of my favorites. But they did have, And I was kind of like, this guy, I couldn't remember why the guy who played Willard Wyatt looked so familiar. So I had a look to see who played it. It was a guy called Jimmy Dean. And yes, it's the same Jimmy Dean who was the country singer, who was also Jimmy Dean's breakfast biscuits, sausage, all of that sort of thing. That Jimmy Dean. So he plays Willard Wyatt. Now, here's the really cool part, is they wanted in this, because they actually did a lot of filming in Vegas. And at the time, Howard Hughes owned the Desert Inn in Vegas, and Jimmy Dean worked at the Desert Inn, and Howard Hughes had the whole top floor part of it as the penthouse. Well, they wanted somebody reclusive like Howard Hughes, so they had Jimmy Dean play the role of Willard Wyatt, who was actually meant to be portraying kind of a secluded person that you never see type of person. So it was kind of really cool. They started shooting on April the 5th, 1971. With the car chases around Vegas. They actually shut down Fremont Street for 5 nights. 5 nights. Basically, Howard Hughes said whatever Cubby Broccoli wants, he gets. Because he was kind of in charge of Vegas at the time, I guess. And so they shut down Fremont Street for 5 nights. And the strip, was it just Fremont Street or the strip as well? It might have been the strip as well, because they mentioned the strip in there. Then they did some really cool car chases in there, really cool stunts and everything else, and how the stunts turned out was kind of really cool. They had one where the car goes up on 2 wheels, and it's going in, but when it comes out the other side, it's flipped. And actually, no, they're going this way. When they come out the other way, they're this way. And what had happened is that when they first did it, they didn't capture it right, so they wanted to go back and do it again. So they had these American guys do it, but when it came out the other side, something wasn't working right with it, or it came out correctly and everything else. But so then a few weeks later, they weren't happy with it. So a few weeks later, they went back to film it. The American stuntmen weren't available, so this French team come in and do it. But when the French team come out and they got the take they wanted, they actually realized that the car was facing the wrong way, because the car went in with passenger side down, but came out driver's side down. So what they did with a little bit of editing is that they did a close-up of Sean Connery and Jill St. John, who was playing Tiffany Case. They had the picture of them like this, and then as they're going through, you see them go like this to show that they flipped the car while they were driving through. So I thought that was kind of cool. Sean Connery and Jimmy Dean became very good friends, and Sean Connery called Jimmy Dean the noisy American. That was his name for him. And Jimmy Dean said in the interview on in the special feature that he learned more about golf and improved his golf game from Sean Connery than he did from any pro he had ever hired. Because apparently whenever they had a chance, Sean Connery was out playing golf, and he actually gave Jimmy Dean a lot of tips and hints and instruction and all of that sort of stuff. So I thought that was kind of cool. The scene with the clay where they've got the guy in the clay pit, if you watch it, you'll see it. They use mashed potatoes for that. Oh my gosh, they had this huge bathtub full of mashed potatoes with this guy in there, and then they put more in on top of him, and they dyed it this brown color. But what anybody failed to realize that within 24 hours, mashed potatoes really, really stink. If they, so they said the smell was horrendous. Can you imagine that? All those mashed potatoes. I mean, you're talking bathtubs full of mashed potatoes. Oh god, the stink. Oh man. Then they did they were talking about the scene that they did with the guy that played Peter Franks. What's his name? Peter Simmons? Can't remember his name. But anyway, so you had Sean Connery at 6 foot. Yeah, there was basically 2 guys at 6'2", 220 pounds in a small old-fashioned elevator, one of those wire cage things that go up the little wire cage chute in this old building in Holland, fighting. And the stuntmen tried to coordinate and all of that sort of stuff, but it was sort of like every time they put an elbow back to throw a punch, they would break a piece of glass that was in the wall of the elevator. So the guys ended up choreographing their own fight scenes. I thought that was kind of cool. They finished filming on the 13th of August 1971, which was the last day of filming and also the last day of Sean Connery's contract. And they said it was actually Friday the 13th as well, just so you know. And that was basically his swan song from James Bond. So now I'm almost finished with watching Live and Let Die, which is the first Roger Moore one. And it has Jane Seymour in there as the Bond girl and kind of launched her career. It's kind of a creepy one because they do all this weird stuff, like she plays solitaire, reads the tarot cards, and then they've got all this voodoo stuff, and it's meant to be all around black magic and all that sort of stuff. So it's kind of creepy in a way. Out of all my James Bond movies, I would say this is probably one of the ones that I like the least, just because it creeps me out a little bit, especially when they bring in the snakes. Not a big snake fan. That's why I don't go walking here in the States, because you guys have snakes here. And I heard a rattlesnake one time and I took off for the car. I wasn't hanging around to see it. I mean, we were in Sedona with my parents, and Brad was driving us, and this was back in 2014, and we had gone around this loop road where you can stop, and I think it was like the Cathedral Rocks that you could get to see. If you haven't been to Sedona, they have amazing rock formations there. And so Mum, Dad, and I got out of the car, and Brad stayed in the car, and went out on this point to get better views and take some photographs of this thing. And as we're coming back, I accidentally kicked a stone, and I hear this shh, and I'm just like, shit, where is it? Come on, we're getting back to the car right now. And I'm like, what? And I said, and as soon as I got back to the car, Brad's like, what happened? Because he could see my face was like white. And he goes, what happened? I said, I think I heard a rattlesnake. I'm not sure. I didn't stick around to find out. And he goes, did it sound like a baby rattle? I went, yeah. He goes, oh yeah, that would have been a rattlesnake. And I'm like, yeah, get, just go. So that's I just don't have this thing with snakes. So Live and Let Die has snakes in it. So that's kind of like creepy and all of that sort of stuff. So that's it from me for today. Redecorating tomorrow. Well, one window is going to get redecorated tomorrow in this beautiful burgundy blackout curtain that is supposed to be energy efficient as well, because I'm trying to find ways where I don't have to use my AC so much, so when the heat comes in. So I'm getting ready, kind of going to start thinking towards summer, how to summarize, I don't know what the right terminology is. Summarize the sparkle, so that when the heat's coming on, there's not a lot of heat coming in. So there's different things we can get for window coverings, screens, all of that sort of stuff that will deflect the UV rays out, deflect the heat out. This one here, this drape here, this curtain is one of those types of things. So I'm going to test it on that one window and see how that feels, because on the front windscreen I now have, what do they call it, reflex? It's a silver shiny stuff, and I've got it between the blind that comes down and the windscreen. So, and over in that area, even though it makes it a lot darker, which is kind of nice, except for during the day, but you gotta have the engine on to put that blind up and down, so that just stays down. Once it's down, it stays down. But it was a lot cooler there this morning with the sun coming in on it before I put all that up to drive off. So I'm gonna figure out what to do on the side windows where I have blinds. So where I have curtains. And then that one blind that I have that's broken is going to get replaced with this week, this couple of days. So I'll be able to show you that after I get that done. So I have my tension rod. I have this. So that's going to be my project over the next couple. Oh, and reorganizing my overhead cabinets. And so now I'm going to go finish watching the last 15 minutes of Live and Let Die. Travel day, I don't do much when I get there. But yeah, it's been an awesome day. Had a great drive. It was hot. So by the time I got here, I was exhausted, and I still am. My brain's a little fried right now. So, which is kind of funny because I kind of took a nap while watching Live and Let Die. Just did a couple. But I've seen the movie, I don't know how many times, so I kind of knew what happened. So anyway, so we will catch up with you guys tomorrow. Tomorrow is R&R day, but I'm also going to be doing cooking tomorrow. So I'm going to be cooking some chicken and hard boiling some eggs in my Instapot, pulling that out, doing a whole bake up thing with that. I may make some keto-friendly desserts. I don't know. But yeah, between the cooking sessions and the Instapot, I'm just probably going to kick back, relax, read, watch some movies, I got to catch up on Red Metal, which is the book I'm reading right now for the book club that we're in, because we just got given the questions for the next lot of chapters, which I haven't got to yet. So I'm going to do some catch up on that and put in my comments for the discussion questions that we already have. So it's going to be a good fun couple of days because I've got no distractions with sightseeing. I may go for a walk down the river. Although there's a lot of noisy people here. There's a lot of ATV vehicles here, a lot of motorcycles here. There's one guy who was revving one up earlier. There's a lot of boats here because we've got the boat ramp down the end there. So I have a feeling that come tomorrow, once everybody's up, that some people may leave because it's Sunday, but other people may go out onto the river or go up onto the trails and all that. So it's going to be nice and quiet in the campground tomorrow. Yes. I have no intentions of getting out of bed before 10 o'clock in the morning. If I wake up early, I'm just going to lay there and read and snooze. It's R&R day after all. And so that's it from me. Have a great rest of your evening. May it be super fantastic and sparkling. And we will catch you guys tomorrow. Hei konara.